My name is Gary Fredricks with WSU Extension, located in Cowlitz County. If you need to get a hold of me because you'd like a copy of this presentation, you'd like to see other presentations that we've had in the past, because we do, well, I think almost all of the presentations we've done over the last 2 years, we have a copy of them. And there's a bank of them online that you can go and look at. So it's real easy to do that. In looking at classes coming up, we have seed starting next week. That's about time to start thinking about seed starting and what to do and when to start them and those type of things. And Alice is going to do just an excellent job with that. Hard to believe this month is almost over. It just seemed like it was Christmas not that long ago. February, time to start thinking about roses. Attracting pollinators. It seems cool out, but you know, there's trees that come on early, such as the cherry trees and some of those, and if they're flowering and we're waiting for honeybees, you're in trouble because they're still inside underneath their winter blankets. So attracting pollinators is a great class. Grapes coming up, and that's by Sarah. And then transforming your landscape. Just again, some really good classes. So hope you'll join us again. Always on Tuesday, always on at noon. We do have some face-to-face classes coming up. On the 3rd, tree fruit care and pruning. On the 10th, raising mason bees. And on the 24th, care of grapes and pruning. And all those classes are located in Longview. So if you have an interest, I'd be happy to send you the announcement. Maybe you've already seen it. You would sign up online and then participate. So hopefully we'll see some of you there. With that, I can stop sharing, and then I've got to start sharing again. Perfect. Okay. Pruning fruit trees. I will, oh, Sarah, go ahead. You have your announcement, and I don't want to forget.
Well, I forgot. I'm going to put in the chat the link to a survey that we love for people to take. It takes just a few minutes to do, and we love your feedback, and it gives you a chance to give specific feedback to the presenter also. So just look for that in the chat. I'll put it in now, and I'll probably put it in at the end again in case people join us later. Thank you so much for doing that.
Yeah, we as a committee meet every month, once a month, and we decide our classes two months from now. And so we're always using those suggestions and ideas and trying to incorporate them. So it's not like all these things are planned out for the year. We try and keep ourselves pretty flexible so we can take on some topics that come up. So if you have something, that'd be great. I would ask you to go ahead and mute. I will take on questions at the end, and also in the chat box, we'll take a look at it. So pruning fruit trees, now's the time to start thinking about it. So you already know who I am. And if you have questions, again, get a hold of me at garyf@wsu.edu. That's the best way. And I read my email at minimum, at least daily, if not more often. So makes it easy that way. So why do we prune? This is normally I'd be in front of you and I'd be going, why do we prune? And everybody's going, well, but you know, it's pretty easy to think about it this time of the year. We hope this doesn't happen, but it's interesting because on the way home during the snowstorm, and the branch wasn't quite this big, fortunately for the car, but a tree had parked under the car, and sure enough, the branch came over on the top of it. Didn't quite do this much damage, but you know, I've had some trees that are near houses, and you look at the tree and you go, tree doesn't look healthy. You know, the trees will let you know. We think trees die, boom. You know, it's like an animal. You know, it gets sick, boom, it's gone. Trees don't do that. They will hang around for months and years, and they'll give you hints. And if you're watching that tree and you start to see it sick, we think, well, what can we do to make that tree healthy? Once it starts losing leaves on the top, on the outside, once it starts showing signs, it's time to take it down. You're not going to be able to save that tree. But make sure you get a good diagnosis on it. Yeah, we can. I don't even know where to start with this tree. Man, it's having a bad hair day. So it's just a mess. Branches, especially on the neighbor's house. You know, they're not always appreciative of that. And we don't think about small branches like this, but as they get bigger and bigger, they cause some problems. And they're putting a lot of leaves on the house. You get moss accumulation. You get a lot of leaves in the gutter, which I don't know about you, but I hate cleaning out leaves, especially when the gutters start to overflow in the middle of a storm. Broken branches. You know, I saw a lot of that, especially in the Portland area. A lot of pictures of branches that were broken, snapped off. And when we see something that's about this, I don't know if you can see my mouse, but right here, oh, excuse me, this branch that is not completely broken off, if that's not dealt with, it's going to go ahead and allow insects and different diseases to enter through that into the tree. And over time, that's going to either weaken or kill that tree. So something like that's got to be dealt with. Yeah, this tree is telling you I'm on my way out. You know, you look at the bark, you look at the leaves, and look at this tree stub. Somebody cut it, but didn't cut it close. And that's probably the source that allowed that disease to go into the middle of that tree and kill it. Again, more tree damage, you know, especially on a big string. And look at the middle of this tree, something that we can't always see, but see that black stripe through it? That tree was already starting to die from the inside out, which is what will happen. Bacteria, insects, things like that get into the middle of that tree, and they just start eating it. And it weakens that tree from the inside out. And pretty soon, that tree becomes stressed either during a windstorm or snow, and boom, branches start falling or it just snaps. And there are some people that just like to have a lot of fun. You see the one on the left-hand side. In our demo garden, we do have a tree. I have a master gardener that attempted to make a square out of the tree, and he got pretty close. I happen to know which one it is. It's not always obvious because there's a lot of other branches and leaves around it, but and this is one of my favorite ones. There's a gentleman in I believe South Carolina, and he works with the trees and everything like that to modify them. So lots of reasons why we prune. For the most part, we want to keep the tree smaller. And that's especially if you're looking at fruit and you see that fruit 50 feet off the ground, that fruit is for somebody else. It's not for you unless it drops off. We want to get rid of the disease and damaged branches. And of course, the old trees and everything like that, as they get bigger and bigger and we don't ever prune them, they look like that one tree that was having a bad hair day. All these suckers and branches and everything, it just becomes a problem. So something to think about. Shape a tree. And there's a really good reason. As you look at what is it you want that tree to look like? You know, I always tell people if I'm mowing the grass and a branch hits me in the face, it's committed suicide. It's gone. You know, make the tree work for you. And so, what do you want that tree to be? What do you want it to look like? And then air circulation in and especially through the middle of the tree. And we'll talk more about this. But as we push air through that tree, what we're seeing is a lot less fungal diseases, a lot less problems that way. So there's a lot of reasons we prune. So pruning tools. Well, you get the hand pruners. Those are nice. You know, branches up to a half an inch. Maybe that's starting to put a little bit of pressure on you. Then there's the loppers. And I will say that 99% of the time, loppers will take care of everything I need to do, unless I've been ignoring the tree and I haven't pruned it for a couple of years. And I can tell you, you know, you go, oh man, I'm tired. It's rainy, it's wet. I just haven't had a chance. I'll just let it go till next year and prune it. You're going to have twice as many branches. So leaving it go for a year, you're thinking, oh, it'll be twice, you know, it'll be easy next year. Doesn't work that way. You let it go a year, you're going to have twice as many branches, twice as long, twice as much a mess. It's going to be worse than just coming through and pruning it. So pruning annually, great idea. And then maybe something for the bigger branches. And normally if you're pruning all the time, bigger branches don't usually get that far, but it does happen. So we've got the three tools here that we need. So when I talk about pruners, and especially your loppers, you have two types. You have the bypass, which is on the left-hand side, and the anvil, which is on the right-hand, or excuse me, left-hand side. The bypass, which is on the right-hand side. So the anvil is just kind of a flat surface. And what happens is that blade comes down on that anvil or that flat surface and kind of cuts it. But you know, if that blade gets a little bit dull, what it tends to do is it tends to crush the branch. And rather than a nice clean cut, it'll tend to splinter it and everything. And again, that's where that tree, and we depend upon the tree to heal itself. And if that tree can't heal itself, it's become splintered. It's not, that cut is too far away from the tree, whatever. That's what allows the diseases and the insects to come into that tree. And that's when we start to lose it. So let's look at closer. So we have, when I talk about a bypass, you have a blade, and the blade is only on one side. It should be flat on one side, curved on the other side. And so the curved blade, and you can see it on this side, what it does is it goes all the way past, so you get that really nice cut. And when I'm looking at cutting, I want that side that you're looking at right now to be closest to the tree, because I don't want to leave a little bit of a stub. I want to get a nice close cut that's right next to the branch. So when I'm cutting branches, if I've got two branches that have kind of done like this, I'm going to cut it right next to the main stem. I'm not going to leave a little stub on the end of it. Of course, we all, young kids will do this. Us old guys should know better. No, don't be climbing up trees and doing branches like this. This is just an accident waiting to happen. Get yourself a good ladder, a good steady ladder, and get up there and start pruning and everything like that. But even when I look at this tree, again, he's about halfway up. Does he really want to stand on that top rung and start thinking about pruning up here? Now is the time, especially as your trees start growing, is to think about keeping them in a size that works for you. Because I can tell you, you don't ever want to be on the top of a ladder, the top rung. That's just an accident waiting to happen. That bottom part of the ladder all of a sudden finds that molehill or mole run and sinks down in, and all of a sudden you realize you're flying through the air and hadn't counted on it. So yeah, try and stay as far down the ladders as possible. And that just means getting to this tree and shaping it. This tree should have been cut down a lot sooner, and these branches should have never gotten this long in my case. So what do we prune? Okay. First, we want to prune anything that's in the way. Okay, this branch just slapped me in the face. It's gone. It's starting to rub against the top of my house or something like that. I'm going to get rid of it. Anything that is causing, you just don't like that branch, take it out. Not a problem. Then you got weak, and you can kind of see branches that they just don't hold up. The fruits start to grow and the branch is down on the ground. It's time to take that one out. Anything that's dead, diseased, or broken, those should be your first choice. Go out and prune those. And in fact, especially when you have a branch that's been broken, you probably want to get it cut as soon as possible. Don't wait on that. So we've gotten the disease and we've gotten the ones that are obnoxious. Then we want to go the ones that are straight up. So you've got branches that are vegetated. They're not going to put any fruit on them, and you're going to see them going straight up. And I'm not talking about the main trunk. I'm talking about these water suckers that are coming up the side. Then you have branches that are growing down, and they don't grow down too much. The problem with those is they don't have the support. They get really weak, and especially for supporting fruit, what will happen is if there's not a lot of strength in that branch, as the fruit comes onto it, it'll tend to pull it down, and just the weight of the fruit may break that branch. And then any crossing branches, especially if branches are touching each other. If branches are touching each other and the wind goes, what they're going to do is one will start to shave the bark off the other branch. And again, you got this open wound on that tree where the bark is gone. Nothing is protecting it from insects going in there. And again, that bark is what really protects the tree. The anything going outside, going inside. And that's really the integrity. It's just like you got a teenager with a weed eater and he's going around these trees and he's stripping that bark off at the bottom. It won't be long before you start to see that tree start to have some problems. And that bark it takes forever to come back. So preserving the bark, that's what you want to do. So when I come up against a tree, I'm going to cut anything that goes up, anything that goes down, anything that crosses. That's probably going to be about 90% of the branches that I'm dealing with at this point. And we see some here. Like I said, I hope you can see my pointer, but you've got this branch on the right-hand side coming down. We're going to take that right off. You've got a couple that are going straight up. They're obvious. We're going to take those off too. This one going off. This one looks pretty weak with some leaves on it. We don't really care for that. And I probably would start to bring this thing down a little bit. Here's another one. Look at this tree here on the top where we've kind of pruned it and we have allowed this tree to grow out. So it looks almost like a Christmas tree. And the shape we're looking for is more triangle. We want the lower branches to be longer, then the next level of branches to be a little bit more in, and then the top branches up. And this kind of allows the lower branches to get some light, the next level of branches to get to light. Whereas if we get a round tree, like the ones on the bottom, not all the lower branches get that light. And what they start to do is everything starts to go up. And that creates a problem. So again, more of a Christmas tree type of shape to it. And you can see this one where they thought, oh, yeah, it's getting a little bit long. You can see those branches up top where they just took them off, and you want to take them right there, right at the limb. That's going to allow you to lower that tree and do some things. You also see this lower branch on the left-hand side where it's coming out and then something's coming over the top. I'd cut that one off. And a few of these where they're going up and going off, what they're going to do is start to weaken this lower branch. And here we see one, gives you a better idea of the haircut type of thing. So that they just gone through and cut a lot of this is just 1 year's growth. And you'd be amazed how much growth some of these trees can have on them. So we've given this tree a haircut, kind of cut it back and reduced it. And I know people go, oh my gosh, I'm cutting all these branches. I'm cutting all this fruit out of the tree. There's going to be nothing left. No, your tree will be fine. But you get too many branches and too much fruit, it's going to get small. It's not going to be healthy. We want a nice, healthy tree. Also, we want to look at the 1/3 rule. This looks like probably, I'm sorry, I work for the county, but somebody from county maintenance that came through and somebody told them to prune these trees, and wow, they did a nice job. And they thinking, okay, we're going to prune these trees. We got nothing to worry about. And there's we call it the 1/3 rule. You come in and you try and take no more than 1/3 of that tree off. Because if you don't, look at what happened the next year on this thing. This tree goes, I'm dying. I got no branches. And it will send up all these small branches all over the place. It just makes a mess. So again, try not to, they've got some wood stubs up there that aren't healthy. They just topping trees. It's just not a great idea. It's just not good for trees. And it doesn't look that good. That's pretty kind of ugly to me. Then you've got this big old tree. It's been in the family for years and years and years. We see this one out in the field, and it's huge. It doesn't matter how many ladders you have, you're never going to get to the top of this thing. So what are you going to do with this big old tree? Well, you got a couple options. This is not. Option one is get a tall ladder. No, it's not. And number one, never stand on the top rung of a ladder. Never, ever, ever, ever. I've had 3 friends that fell off of ladders. One passed away. Both the other 2 were in the hospital for over 3 months. Just not a good idea. And we're not talking a tall ladder. You just don't want to take the chance. So you're not going to do that. Option 2 is just cut it down. You know, how can you cut a tree down? Real easy. You get the chainsaw out and take it out. You know, make a nice planter out of it. Option 3, just leave it alone, let it grow and enjoy it. There are some trees, they're big and overbearing and everything like that. It's going to be difficult to do anything with them. That doesn't mean they're not a good tree. That doesn't mean they're not going to live for a long time and everything. So sit and enjoy the tree in your yard. But when a tree becomes unmanageable, when it becomes to the point where it's kind of having problems and everything, time to get rid of it. So when do we prune? Well, a lot of times we like to prune in the spring, though this picture here, we see these trees starting to bloom. This is probably the time that you don't want to, because the sap starts running in these trees, especially when they start to get a little blossoms on them and blooms. And what happens is, as you start pruning, when we start to see those buds and blossoms come on, that sap will come out the end of the branches, just a little bit. Boy, that attracts the insects. And of course, that's the wrong thing. But you can prune. You can prune in the certainly in the summer. And this is a good time from my standpoint. We talked about when you start cutting branches, the tree starts putting 2 up for every branch you cut. Usually summer pruning is when you don't see that happen. Here's where I'll take a branch when I see a branch in the wrong spot. That's when I probably cut. But for the most part, I probably leave it alone. Then we have the fall. You know, the leaves are starting to drop and everything like that. A little easier to see it. And then the winter. I am a fair-weathered pruner. I typically go out in January and February when it's not snowing, when it's not raining, and it's a pretty sunny, reasonable day. I'll probably have my coat on because it's a little bit cool. But, you know, it's great because you can see all the branches, you can see what you're cutting, and probably doing about 90% of my pruning at this time. But again, wait until you want to wait until the snow's off the ground, till the sun's in the sky before you have a little bit of time before it starts budding out that you can do that. You want to make, you know, I can't emphasize enough, your cuts as close to the parent stems as possible. And what I mean about this is you don't want to leave a stem on this tree. You have this collar, and you're going to go down and you cut this. And what the tree will do, you can see this, it will start to heal itself around that wound. And over time, you've got 2 good examples here where that branch was cut off and the tree healed itself. Nothing's going to get in there. The insects are going to leave it alone. It's going to be just fine. And this is a good example. But if you leave a stud, you know, if we leave that stud, so we don't cut it very close, we don't think what we're doing, we get a little sloppy, and we leave a stub here, you know, away from it. Well, what happens? Well, the tree tried to heal it, but it didn't. We see that big crack out there. That's, you know, there's diseases, there's insects, there's different things, and they have access now to the middle of that tree. They're in there and they're just eating away. They're having a great time. It's warm, there's a little bit of moisture, there's plenty of food, and there's nothing we can do to save this tree at this point. There's a good chance this tree just isn't going to make it. And when I'm looking at the bark doesn't look all that healthy. And so you can see where the tree tried to heal itself here, but it just didn't work. We've got to give the tree some break here. Large branches. If you have ever cut a large branch, so you start cutting, you know, you stand on the ladder and you start cutting and cutting and cutting, and pretty soon the branch goes and it rips the under part of it off. There's nothing you can do about this under part. You've already cut it pretty close, and so you've got this big scar here that's a problem. So the way you do this is you make a first cut, probably don't have to go this deep, but go into the branch. And of course, as you can see, we're away from the main tree. So we're making our first cut, we're making our second cut. And as we go down, this thing is going to snap, but it's not going to rip and tear. And even if we get a little bit, we're away from the main branch. And then our third cut, our third cut is where we want it to be, right next to the tree, allowing that to heal. So it's a 3-cut system. But this will stop from, quote, allowing those big tearing of bark and everything like that. That's going to create a problem. Most of the diseases and things that can happen to a tree, we create those problems ourselves because we just aren't watching what we're doing when it comes to pruning. Where to start? I gave you all these tools, up, down, crossing, all that kind of stuff. And that sounds really good. And then you're standing in front of the tree with your loppers and you go, I don't even know where to start. For myself, I stand at the bottom of the tree and I start walking around it. And I cut the branches that I know that I want to take. You see all those branches going up? They can all go. You don't have many crossing branches, maybe a few. And I have a few that are probably going down. But as you start pruning this tree every year, most of your problem branches are going to disappear. Most of your branches are the ones going up. So I just keep walking around it. I get to the point where I go, okay, I've got most of what I want. I may have to get a ladder and get some of the tall ones. And we can see here, I've gotten pretty well where I want to be. There isn't much going up. There's much going down the side. And see how I've got the longer branches on the outside, and as I'm going up, the branches are getting are not as long, allowing everything to get light, and the inside of it is really open. And of course, that allows that airflow to really help keep that fungal diseases and a lot of problems that tree's experiencing. And so you're going, man, there's not a lot of branches, compared to what we had before. But certainly you'd be amazed as the leaves start coming on and the blossoms start coming on, this thing will produce more than enough fruit for you. So, final pruning tips. First thing, get rid of the diseased and the dead branches. And you want to do that as soon as it happens. You have something happen in the fall, wait 3 months to cut that branch. When you see something that's broken or diseased, take it now. You're pruning, you're standing around. Again, just walk around the tree. Those that are going up, those are going down, and those are crossing. I would say usually about the third time I've walked around that tree, And if I have a branch that I go, I don't know whether I should cut it, leave it. It doesn't hurt anything. There's been times where I thought, maybe this branch will be right where I want it to be. I'll give it another year and see where it goes. I can always take it next year. We want a Christmas tree shape. And see this design where the lower part is longer than the next level of branches. And that allows these branches down here to get their share of sunlight, not a nice round shape. So no, we don't want the round shape. And remember, branches are like hair. They're going to grow back. We're so worried about making a cut that you have to live with forever. This tree is always growing. It's always going to put more branches out. And in fact, those areas that tend to have light, the branch is going to be attracted to that. So for the most part, especially the smaller branches, you make a mistake, well, the tree is pretty forgiving. It'll come back on you. One of the tips that I learned from somebody that really helped me was keeping a small file in my back pocket. And you can pick up a file for $2-3. I don't need a major one. I show the two files here because you have one without a handle and one with a handle. The one with the handle is what you want. The one that has the sharp end on the back, that's really good for jabbing yourself or poking yourself or things like that. So you want a handle on it. And every time you finish with a tree, go ahead and give that blade. And when I'm looking at that blade, you only have the blade's only on one side, and I'm going down the way. So if this was the cutters, that file would be going down, not up and down, up and down. I'm only going down, and give it about 2 or 3 swipes with the file. It'd be amazing. The two things that do is, number one, it's going to save your arm. You're not going to have to work as hard to cut. The second thing it'll do is it's going to make a nice cut. It's not going to allow that branch to splinter, bark to kind of get peeled and things like that. When you start doing that, you need to get your file out. The other thing is, think about disinfecting your tools. If you have a tree that doesn't look right, maybe some leaves look a little bit off or dying and things like that, and you think it's diseased, first of all, I'd leave that tree last to be pruned. But if you are pruning from tree to tree, they say use a standard household bleach. I just use Basie wipes. They're real easy. I just take the wipe, go across my pruners, and then go on to the next tree. You don't, once the disease is there, you don't want to carry it from tree to tree to tree. This is a good way to take that. They used to at one time say, when you have something like this, you paint it. No, we don't do that anymore. So you don't have to worry about coming out and painting these. Once, if you made a good cut on it, that tree, and you can see the tree is already doing that, it will heal itself. Keep the paint off the trees. And just, again, prune the tree to make it look like you want it to look. That's the best thing. Are you happy with how it looks? Nice kind of, off the ground a little bit, more accessible to where you can pick the fruit and everything, but get it to look like you want. With that, that's all, folks.